This tutorial shows you how to fix a problem installing auxiliary packages for the statistical program R or its companion Rstudio under Linux, where it is unable to fetch all of the dependent packages. I will demonstrate. This video is to troubleshoot R and Rstudio and therefore assumes you already have them installed. If you need help installing them under Ubuntu Linux, see my link in the show notes below. Here I have Rstudio open, and let's say I want to install the package tidyverse, and I hit dependencies equal to true to make sure that I catch all of the dependencies as well. Notice that it says error, package cellranger was installed before R4, please reinstall it. And then we have another warning saying installation of package readxl had non-zero exit status. This means that our package tidyverse was not installed because the dependency packages were not successfully installed. Let's say you try to install those dependency packages one by one as you find the errors. So first we're going to type install.packages, and we're going to go and install that cellranger package using dependencies equal to true to catch all of its dependencies. And it loaded fine. Next, we're going to run install.packages, and we're going to catch that package readxl that also did not install, and we're going to type dependencies equals true to catch all of its dependencies. Great, we got both of those to install. Now we'll go back and we'll try again to install tidyverse. Notice we have some errors. Now we have a package called covr that failed to be installed. And we have one that was called rex that failed to be installed. So we have yet another problem where yet another package will not be installed. So we go back and we try to install those dependencies manually one by one. So we'll start with covr. And we see that we have more errors. The rex package failed to be installed. And so on and so forth. And it can go on like this for hundreds of packages. This is a quick splice to ask you to consider subscribing to my channel by hitting the subscribe button. It does not cost anything. It is totally free. But if you like what I am doing and want to support my work, I encourage you to visit patreon.com/joshbanta and make a voluntary contribution. The link is in the show notes below. Your support helps me to deliver new content and keep this channel current and vibrant. Thank you. I reached out about this problem to the help forum run by the company that makes Rstudio. 2 contributors to the help forum helped me to solve the problem. I have the link to this conversation in the show notes below. Open it up on your computer so you can follow along. Also open up Rstudio. Now we will copy and paste some code from the help discussion into Rstudio. Toggle back over to the web browser and scroll to where you find my step-by-step instructions at the end. These instructions summarize the discussion. Highlight the line of code as indicated. To copy it, right-click if you're on a Windows-style mouse or push down on a Mac trackpad with 2 fingers and select Copy. Then go into Rstudio, click on the console window, and right-click on a Windows-style mouse or push down on a Mac trackpad with 2 fingers and select Paste to paste the code into Rstudio, and then hit Enter. Toggle back over to the web browser and repeat this process with the next line of code. Don't hit Enter. We are saving a list of all the R packages that we already have installed so that we can easily reinstall them at the end of this process. We need to replace the text that says somewhere safe with the actual file name and the actual file path of where we want to save it. To do this, we need to open up our terminal window and we need to open up File Explorer. In File Explorer, we need to navigate to our Downloads folder, and then we need to drag that folder into our terminal window so that we can get the path of our Downloads folder. Then delete where it says somewhere safe in that R code. Come back to our terminal window. Copy the path, including those single quotation marks. Remember that to copy or to paste, you start by right-clicking on a Windows-style mouse or pushing down on your trackpad with 2 fingers on a Mac, and paste them into RStudio, including those single quotation marks. And next, we need to add the name of the file that we're saving out. So add a / and then the name rpackages.csv. This all needs to be included within those 2 quotation marks. Next, hit enter. Now we will start the process of deleting all of the R packages on our computer and then deleting R and RStudio. Open up the help discussion on your browser and copy the indicated line of code. Paste it into RStudio and hit enter. This will show you all of the paths where your R packages are stored on your computer. We will delete each of these locations from your computer using the terminal. Copy the indicated line of code from the help discussion in your browser and paste it into a terminal window. Don't hit enter. We need to replace where it says path to library folder with the path to the folder that we wish to delete. Click back over to RStudio and copy the library path. Be sure to copy the quotation marks as well. Click back over to the terminal window and erase, using the backspace, where it says path to library folder. Then, in its place, paste the path to the library folder that you copied from RStudio. Be sure that it is in quotation marks. Hit enter and then type in the administrative password for your computer and then hit enter once again. Repeat this process for every library path listed in RStudio. You may have more or fewer library paths than I do. Next, close RStudio. Then refer back to the help discussion and copy the line of code as indicated, and then paste it into the terminal and hit enter. Type in the administrator password and then press enter. Type Y and then enter to continue. When finished, click back on the web browser and the R help discussion. Copy the next line of code, paste it into the terminal window and press enter. When finished, go back to the web browser, copy the next line of code, paste it into the terminal window and press enter. Now it says, do you want to continue? Click Y and press enter. Yet again, go back to your browser, copy the next line of code, paste it into your terminal window and press enter. Now you can't see it because it's covered, but you need to click on Y when it says, do you want to continue, and hit enter. Now that R and RStudio have been uninstalled, we need to restart our machine, and then we will reinstall R and RStudio once again. First, close the terminal window. Next, close the browser window, then close File Explorer. In the drop-down menu in the right, select Power Log Off, click on Power Off, and then select Restart. Once the computer has restarted, reopen your browser window and navigate back to the R help discussion. There you will find a link to my YouTube video about how to install R and RStudio for Ubuntu Linux. Highlight that link and paste it into a new browser tab. You'll need to change the XXXX to HTTPS. Click on Enter. And there you'll see my instructions. Follow through with all of them. Now we have to install the R2U package for R according to the instructions on GitHub. To do this, click on the browser window and navigate back to the R help discussion. Highlight the link that has the instructions and open it up in a new browser tab. Be sure to change the XXXX to HTTPS and then hit Enter. Note that I used the instructions for Ubuntu Linux version 20.04. At that same step in the R help discussion, you will also see instructions for installing the R2U package for Ubuntu Linux version 22.04. So be sure you choose the right instructions depending upon your Ubuntu Linux operating system version. Now, I will be showing you the instructions for Ubuntu Linux version 20.04. I start by highlighting the code on line 12 and copying it. And I'm going to open up a terminal window, and I'm going to paste that code in there. Now, an important modification is that wherever you see apt, you have to add sudo before it, which means super user do with a space. Notice that I had to add it twice there. After you hit Enter, you'll be prompted for the administrative password. Type it and press Enter. Now repeat this process with the next line of code. Your code may be different depending upon the instructions for your Ubuntu Linux version, but wherever you see apt in the code, you need to change it to sudo space apt. Now I will show you the next important modification to the code. Wherever you see echo, you need to modify it. First, let's copy and paste it into the terminal window. Then you'll need to modify it just so. Before the word echo, you'll need to add the words sudo space bash space -c space single quote, and then you can have the code taken from the R help discussion. At the end of that code, you need to add another single quote. Look at my modifications on the screen carefully. Then hit Enter. Continue on through the rest of the GitHub code. Remember that every time you see apt, you have to add before it sudo space apt. Remember that every time you see echo, you have to add before it sudo space bash space -c space single quote, and then put in the rest of the code, and then put another single quote at the end of that line of code. Notice here there's an apt in the middle of this line of code, not at the beginning, so you have to add a sudo there in the middle of the code. Now here's another place where you need to add sudo. Before the word rscript, you have to type sudo space, and then you can paste this line of code that says rscript, etc. Now in the terminal window, type the capital R and enter to enter the R software through the terminal window. Now we will manually set the working directory to where your list that we exported of previously installed R packages is located. Type setwd open parenthesis and then open up File Explorer. Navigate to your Downloads folder, not into your Downloads folder, but just so that you can see the folder, and drag this folder into your terminal window. Then add a closed parenthesis and hit Enter. Next, we need to type bspm : enable open parenthesis closed parenthesis, or you can just copy this code from the R help discussion and paste it into the terminal window and press Enter. Now we need to import our list of previously installed R packages back into R so that we can reinstall them. From now on, by the way, we will be using local binaries for installing packages rather than fetching them individually from the cloud. The entire R repository should be on our computer now, and individual packages ready to be installed as we wish. We will import the list that we saved off at the beginning using the code that you see below. To get the path to the rpackages.csv file that we created, you need to open up File Explorer, navigate into your Downloads folder, and find the file rpackages.csv. Drag that file into your terminal window. Then add a closed parenthesis and hit Enter. Now open up your browser window that has the R help discussion and copy the line of code as indicated. Paste it into your terminal and press Enter. When asked if you prefer later versions from sources, click N and hit Enter. When asked if you'd like to use a personal library instead, click Y and hit Enter. When it asks you again, providing a library path, click Y and hit Enter. You may now close the terminal window, and then close the browser window, and then close File Explorer. Next, open Rstudio. Type bspm : enable open closed parentheses and hit Enter in the console window. Next, we will try to install that package tidyverse that we were unsuccessful before. Notice that the package installed successfully with no errors. Now we will call the tidyverse library just to make sure that it did install properly. And we can see that it installed properly. The errors you see here about conflicts are nothing serious. Everything installed as it should. From now on, you should be able to install packages problem-free without an infinite regress of dependencies that need to be installed first. Just be sure that before you try to install a package that you run that command in the console bspm : enable open close parentheses to make sure that you will be installing packages from your local repositories.